everybody, it's Mara from MatterHackers, and today I am here with Matt Griffin, who is the Director of Community for Ultimaker North America. Hi, Matt.
Hey.
How are you?
Great to be here. Great to be a part of this.
I'm so excited. Matt and I have actually known each other for a couple of years, and he's pretty awesome. And so we have much to talk about. So much has been going on with Ultimaker. But first, let's kind of back up. Tell us about you and your role at Ultimaker.
Okay. Well, so for Director of Community, it's not an online community manager. We have a community team that specifically does social media. Mm-hmm. My focus is really on the professional community in North America, basically meeting our customers where they are, like what they're doing in the fields that they're working, the ways they like to talk about this kind of technology, and try to serve them and kind of help them to do more stuff, learn about what they're doing. And so only a third of my work ends up being sort of evangelism. A lot of it ends up being research and partnerships, working with amazing customers who are doing cool stuff that we can then share about, things like that.
Yeah, you do the IRL community, I guess. Yeah. I guess you would say. There's the online community, which is great, but that's what I love about this industry as well, is getting out and like seeing how businesses and schools and enthusiasts and people are taking this technology that's now become so accessible and making awesome stuff with it and actually making their jobs easier. So you see these kinds of stories all the time. Tell me some stories.
It's
I love
really exciting
Matt
time. There's just so much happening.
Yeah.
So I know that some folks, they look at 3D printing being less in the news in the way that it was in, like, say 2014, and they think, oh, well, clearly 3D printing isn't as big of a deal. But it's actually a lot more exciting from our perspective now, because people are really using this stuff to change their work. And so, they're not squawking about 3D printing, they're just making better work and doing more of it. So the thing that we're finding at Ultimaker is we have a really fast growing professional, enterprise, manufacturing, engineering, medical, academic, makerspace. These areas are growing so fast, where our stuff is being used to help solve problems and find out what they're trying to do. So sometimes people are using 3D printers a lot for projects that will never ever have anything to do with 3D printing. They'll never talk about 3D printing when they make their pieces. This is not a new story. People have been using 3D printers for prototyping from the very beginning, but where they're using it, at what stages of prototyping, is changing a lot. It's really becoming that kind of sketching activity, particularly in fields like like product design, mechanical design, architecture, where you're not just making something that you're going to put a lot of time and energy into as a last chance to kind of get a sense of a piece before you go to a manufacturing process. Like validation print was kind of like what this stuff was about. I mean, the field of 3D printing 20 years ago. Now you see folks who are using desktop 3D printing when they have no idea yet what they're going to make. They're using it to really chase concepts and get early ideas. And they're doing that because their designs get to live digitally. And so they can kick out a physical object, look at it, hand it around, learn from it, like mark all over it. It still is much better for a lot of teams to have something tangible in hands to use. Even while like AR, VR gets really cool, they're still kind of taking off the headsets and kind of gravitating towards physical objects. And they're doing that, but they're bringing all the information back into digital. Now, it's always hard. I'm very excited about all the stuff people are doing, and it's easy to talk generally about the sort of changes. Yeah,
well, it's funny that you say that. I mean, there's a couple of things. So when we say like, oh, 3D printing isn't in the news like it used to be. Like it's not everybody's going to have a 3D printer in their kitchen. Like that was 2014, and like that was nice. But where we're seeing now, where it's being used in industries like architecture, where it's a lot more accessible. So maybe architects and firms, design firms that used to be using balsa wood and
Yep.
cardboard and popsicle sticks or whatever they were using, they couldn't quite get the detail and they couldn't really convey the design aesthetics that they really wanted to. Whereas now with 3D printers coming down in cost and being easier to use, and the software being better, they can actually make a usable final model. Not they model it and they prototype it and then they send it out to
Right.
a very expensive model made in a different way. But like you said, the 3D printers are being used in a different part of the production process now.
Right.
It's not just for prototypes. You can actually make your final model that you're going to be using not just for presentations, but to fix your designs along the way, and then have your final thing. And that's really exciting.
So right now, like there's a team in Philly, Jeff Design, and I really love these guys. And they have been exploring how they can use 3D printing to teach future doctors how to design better medical devices. And so it works a little bit like, like narrative medicine, that it's a stage of becoming a doctor that helps you understand, well, you don't have to solve these problems just by picking something out of a catalog. You can really figure out what the problems are, and you can engage with design thinking and get to further answers. But one of the consequences of them doing this and exploring this further is they're kind of reigniting the older model of doctors as innovators and entrepreneurs at the same time. And so some of these folks, they're finishing medical school, but they're also launching products. And they're not just using desktop 3D printing to mock something up, but they're using it to change how they can work with like 3D scans, like patient data, how they can introduce techniques and technology to multiple stakeholders within a hospital. Everything from other healthcare providers to administrators. They can sort of get them in front of stuff, help them understand what's going on. So they've been leaning into this, and they're having real progress in introducing professional desktop 3D printing into the healthcare system there. It's working. The technology has been around a while. There have been industrial solutions, but now here is one that even the administrators are taking a look at because it's cost effective. It really matches the needs of the patients and the doctors. So that narrative changes.
Yeah. So I'm so inspired by these stories. Tell me one more.
Okay. So where my Ultimaker office is in Brooklyn in New Lab.
So cool.
New Lab is a neat place. You've come to visit. I know people come and visit and they say, "Oh, can I just hang out here a little bit? Maybe for a couple days." It's a beautiful building. It's a massive shipbuilding facility that now is full of hardware businesses. There are about 100 companies in there doing all sorts of things, but in particular, a lot of work in medical devices, in manufacturing processes, robotics, 3D printing. It's a pretty neat place and inspiring place to be in general.
The energy there is just crazy. Like you just know that in any given office, somebody is actually changing the world, doing something. You don't even want to know what it is. Yeah, it's pretty great.
So the reason that I get to have an office there and spend my days there is we've offered all these printers for use for all the member companies. So there's a huge rack full of Ultimakers, and members use them for any stage of their work, from like 10x beta, coming up with a new product and needing to race to get some new state of their design out to a client, to Honeybee Robotics, who will never deliver anything that isn't metal to a client, but they do a lot of thinking and solving technical studies and kind of invent what their solutions are for their complex, hard environment robotics projects. So it's really neat to be there and see what people are doing. And I'm learning a lot about what a difference this kind of technology is actually making as people really start to use it and expect it. So you have Farm Shelf, for example. They've created a bookshelf scale hydroponics rig that is excellent and in use at a couple of high-end restaurants and with expanding market going. And they came up with a product that has about 350 custom parts. And if they had used any other means of running these parts, because they were really, unusual, tight footprint ways to cram all their LED grow lights, all of their, ventilation system, water and fluid management, now all into these very specific placements, it would have cost a prohibitive amount even to run one set. Instead, they used desktop 3D printing. They printed on Ultimakers, and they were able to run multiple sets of 350 custom parts. Like, they iterated the entire modular set, 11, 12 times, and only, when they are feeling really confident that everything's working and they're running, these are pieces that are actively, growing plants, As they learn what they need, then they can think about doing injection molding, then they can think about other technologies, and they didn't have all of that overhead, all of that early expense just to prove out that it would work. So it really made it possible for them to just sprint ahead, do what they were doing, and they even had, farm shelves in Grand Central Station, producing plants for, they're actually in use at a restaurant from, pretty early in the process.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And I love that how people are using the technology because it is so accessible, because it is inexpensive, because you can have multiple machines making 350 parts.
Yep.
You can do small scale manufacturing, but then you can also have companies like Honeybee Honeybee, right?
Yeah, Honeybee Robotics.
Honeybee, yeah, I thought I was getting it right. Yeah, so you've got Honeybee who does everything in metal, but there's a step between what's on the screen and the metal part. There's actually a lot of steps. And again, this stuff is not sexy, so you're not going to see it on, in People magazine and, on the covers of stuff that's on the supermarket shelves. But it's actually what's moving products forward and what's moving technologies forward. And in closing that gap between what's on their screen and your final metal part, if you can make that process easier, cheaper, faster, then we're going to have more different types of, better products and different types of products that are going to come to market faster. I love the Ultimaker Volkswagen story, where you're not going to have a 3D printed part on a Volkswagen, but there's a factory situation where they need gauges and jigs and fixtures to put parts in place, and they're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in making these cars because they can 3D print those parts, and then if a piece of it breaks, they just fix that piece. They don't have to go and outsource a whole other part. So the cars that many of us are driving, 3D printing had something to do with the production, even if it's not the final part. But to your point earlier, 3D printers are being used later and later, I think, later and later stages of manufacturing, not just the beginning prototype.
Yeah,
earlier and later.
I totally
absolutely.
Agree.
Yeah.
And also moving things in-house that they had to send out for, they had to use other folks for, instead of sending, having stuff shipped from China or India. In some cases, particularly for ad hoc solutions you need right now, having the capability of solving this in-house, it changes so much.
Yeah.
And you get additional value from this. It means you're tying the physical reality of what you can do really closely with your digital design workflow. And it seems to be working kind of like word processors. I mean, we're all used to using computers to write things, that it would probably confuse a lot of people to sit down at a typewriter and see what it'd be like to write things without the ability to correct or change things. Over time, we've learned that it's not actually faster, necessarily, to use a word processor to write something. People tend to take around the same amount of time, but they write better stuff. And I think the same thing is happening with design and testing and research, when you can very quickly make physical things at, you know, at very low cost. So it's not such a heavy consequence to do that. And have multiple iterations, not just iterations at the end when you're expecting to do it and you're kind of freaking out and there's really not that much time left to fix things, but early when you have a first notion and you're not even sure if you're ready to share it with your team of a solution you think that you can do. You can do it, you can prove it to yourself, and you can demonstrate to them, and you're just right there still, you know, at the state you are in the digital design, carrying it forward, you know, getting to better projects, products, healthcare outcomes, educational outcomes.
Go forth with confidence.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we waited long enough.
Okay.
We've got the new S5 humming along behind us.
Very quietly.
Very,
right?
yeah, pretty quietly. Yeah.
It's actually quieter than any machine we've launched.
It is.
Yeah.
Tell us all the things. Tell us all about the S5. Tell us your favorite things.
Okay.
Tell us what this means for you know, what these features mean for those companies and those clients.
Well, if you've been following how Ultimaker does stuff, you know that we tend to make machines, launch them, and keep them going. Customers still have originals and and twos, but we're learning all the time ways to refine. We offered, you know, the 2+ upgrades from the 2 after the 2 had been out for a long time. That represented a lot of thinking and patience and feedback from everyone. The Ultimaker 3 has been out for a long time. The S5 has been in-house for at least 1.5 years in a pretty reasonably related state like this, being battle tested, lots of thinking going into the UI UX, you know, seeing what would be possible. And so it's not just a big Ultimaker 3. It actually represents upgrades and improvements all up and down the line for just about every element. Some of them are not super dramatic, but the effect of tuning and tweaking makes this the most reliable and most accurate of any printer we've ever done. And I'd love to share a couple of reasons why.
Should we get up and dance around the printer?
Well, what do you think?
Is that what you think? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Can we go to the machine?
Can we go up? Yeah.
Okay. But I am really excited about some of the small touches. Like, we added these doors, and the doors, first of all, are really cool, but they're also functionally really helpful for a lot of the materials that we offer. You don't even necessarily need a top for a lot of them. So this was a really nice thing to add, just because this improves sort of the behavior of a lot of them. If you notice, the plate is a little, it's a little more tucked in than the previous ones. We were able to move all of the sort of the dodge areas, the space that you need to accommodate the, you know, the fans, the switching area, etc., off the plate. So you can pretty much build the entire plate, which makes it nice, simple, and clean to figure out what can I build in this, what can I do with this space.
There's no actual limitation in the build volume. The build volume is the plate is the build volume.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And very useful for people that need to, you know, industrial uses where you need to use the full build plate because you're doing multiple parts or you just have one really, really big part.
Exactly. We've always focused on trying to get the most sort of bang for your buck out of the footprint, because we're thinking of these machines as, you know, what you have by your desk. We really want people using this. We want it to affect and improve design. We want better outcomes. And so, even though we knew we wanted to do a bigger machine, we'd experimented with even, you know, much bigger machines. And we really think that this size is going to accommodate most of our, you know, professional customers with the kinds of things they want to try. And we're hearing all kinds of excitement from fields such as footwear. We're really thrilled that now they can play along and do what they're wanting to do. But in order to do a bigger plate, it's, like I said, it's not just like scaling up a 3. It was rethinking what would be the best way to solve these things. So the build plate, you know, the stage in general is a lot sturdier. It can really handle you know, printing all the way out to the edges, which is really, really nice. And we accomplished that in part by beefing up all of the gantry rods and the Z drive, or the guide rods, to really make sure that as you're working with a bigger space, you're not introducing vibration, and you can print the most accurate and reliable parts that we've ever offered. We also improve the motion mechanical system in general. You notice that it's quieter. I guess a little bit earlier, this was printing and the Ultimaker 2 Plus was printing behind it, and you could hear the Ultimaker 2 Plus, but you couldn't hear this one.
Oh, wow.
So that was intentional, and there's even more fun to come from that area. You can use it, so we are continuing to support the core system that we introduced with the 3. So these are the Ultimaker 3 cores, and we're finding that particularly handy because a lot of our customers, they want some 3s, they want an S5 or 2. They really appreciate that they can draw on these resources as they need them across their fleet. And we're soon to add more to what we're doing with the cores. One of the most obvious changes, and one that has really already slipped into my process and thinking for how to use printers. There are a lot of printers who have used LCD, various display solutions, but we made one that is just really easy and intuitive. It allows you to get a sense of what the file is you're printing, details about it, but you can also go and you can learn more about what you've installed on the machine. You can get other details about processes, including preventative maintenance, and have visual images and reminders how to take care of things. So this has really been helpful, and also the back end, the fact that we are surfacing this data here is also pointing out that the Ultimaker Cura is allowing you to do a lot with these machines and know a lot about what you're doing. So the companies are taking advantage of our plugin system to create custom solutions they want that can draw on so much of what you can do with the printer. I'm really excited about that area. It's pretty new. Most of the solutions that are really cool are all like in-house, and I can't wait for more solutions to come out that we can really share with everybody.
The build plate is different, right?
Yes.
It's going to come with a different kind of build plate?
So we have, it ships right now with a glass plate, and all S5s, including those who get it now, will also receive a milled aluminum anodized plate that is going to really open up the kinds of materials you can print. They're materials that you would put down on like printing film, like polyester films and that kind of thing, to help protect the glass. And it worked okay, but materials like polycarbonate are really grabby and really warpy. And so printing on aluminum is just fantastic. Also, it's more accurate sort of across the whole plate than is possible with glass. Speaking of which, when you start a print, currently it's mandatory. I think in the future it may be an option, but it will actually probe a number of places across the entire plate in order to really make sure that the printer knows exactly the level, not just getting an approximate, from a 3-point probe that, this area is approximately flat, but really knowing, where the variations down to like 100 micron, slight adjustments across the entire plate, where they are, and can sort of calculate that and put that into how the first layers are compensated, and once again, to give you a very reliable experience. And there's a flow sensor, and I probably should have mentioned that before. So if you're printing these big, massive projects that take days, it's nice to not have to sweat, wondering when you're going to switch, spools.
Yeah, the filament runout sensor is like necessary when you're looking at it. You're going to leave this thing, overnight or whatever it is, and you're doing a massive, massive print. You want to be able to, literally sleep at night knowing that you're not going to wake up and the whole thing is going to be ruined. So you've got the camera on it for one thing, which is nice, but then the filament runout sensor so that it pauses, and then you can put your filament in, so you're not just, you don't wake up to this much space and just printing in air. which, you know, we've all been guilty of that
Yes.
at some point. It's a great use of the technology now that, again, the technology has advanced so much that you can get a reliable printer with all of these features, still priced relatively affordably compared to the you know, bigger machines that,
Yeah.
you know, these kinds of industrial applications are used to. You're getting a lot for your money here, and it's actually really functional for exactly what you need it for, right? The right tool for the right job.
Exactly. We've also improved, in general, your ability to network in and manage the machine from Ultimaker Cura and also from the phone apps. So that's kind of fun. I don't know if you've played around with that yet.
I have the app on my phone.
Excellent.
I do indeed.
It's really handy, more handy than I thought before I had access to it. You know, and there's still more to come with that. Some fun excitements. Like you'll notice a expansion port in the back and wonder what might happen there. And there'll be exciting things in store.
I was actually thinking I'm not going to ask you what's next for Ultimaker because I know a couple of things that are next and they're really exciting, but you can't talk about them yet. Right. But the machine is awesome, and there is still some room for other things that are going to come out, which is always nice. So thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Cool. Thanks for having
Matt
me on the
Griffin,
show.
everybody, and yeah, we're gonna go hang out at the MatterHackers meetup and eat some tacos and perhaps have a beverage. I'm Mara. For more information about the S5 and all things Ultimaker, go to MatterHackers.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked that, subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all of our videos. And remember, go to MatterHackers.com to shop for everything 3D printing.